I've spent a great deal of time lately talking about the PC Engine / TurboGrafx-16, which makes sense. After all, I bought one back in October, and it's a vital platform to the history of import gaming. What's more, we just received a new version of it days ago in the form of the Analog Duo. But what do I think of it really? That's a very good question. This is Little Akiba Games. I'm Patrick. Welcome back to the shop. Like most Westerners, I got to know the PC Engine as the TurboGrafx-16. First in 1989 as a weird system that only showed up in TV commercials but never actually in any nearby stores. Then in the early 90s when it magically materialized into every bargain bin in the valley, by which time, thanks to game magazines, I was already aware of its secret identity as the PC Engine, and how it was quietly a vault of great games that might someday make it to the Americas if we just got behind it enough. So of course I bought one. I never really bought into it as much as I wanted to because at this point the Super NES and Sega Genesis were still really where it was at, but I did enjoy the copy of Keith Courage in Alpha Zones that served as the system's pack-in, and I actually ended up buying Clax on the TurboGrafx-16 instead of the NES or Genesis. Bomberman was also a given along with a multi-tap because that was a major title among my friends at the time. On a sadly amusing note, I did unfortunately end up buying a copy of the disappointing China Warrior, because the ads just made that game look so much better than it actually was. Rare W for the TurboGrafx marketing department. Too bad it was an L for any of us that it worked on. Although I was, as noted in a previous video, entirely cut off from the import scene at this time, the mere knowledge of its existence kept me from divesting of the TurboGrafx-16, in hopes that I would someday be able to buy into it, which some 3 decades later, and on an entirely different version of the system, I finally did. Having a TurboGrafx-16 felt like a kind of hardcore gaming status symbol at the time. The drip feed of games we received here in the West was still of a high quality for the most part, less China Warrior and Moto Rotor please, and the gaming public wasn't made privy to the fact that NEC in Japan was stifling the software flow in the West, so all of those import previews in EGM and GamePro were still lined with a good deal of hope that those games might actually see a release over here. Even without them, however, there was an undeniable appeal to the system that would be called hipsterish today. This was an age when games like Street Fighter II, Doom, Mortal Kombat, Madden, and NBA Jam were getting people into gaming who had ignored or even denigrated it only a few years before, and this was a system that carried with it the real feeling that gaming still belonged to you, who had been there as far back as you could remember. There was an oddly comforting feeling about bringing up games like Ninja Spirit, Utopia, and Victory Run to your friends at school, and getting only confused stares back like you were in on a really amazing secret that other people just didn't get. I'm sure those who were able to buy into the TurboGrafx CD or the Turbo Duo felt a sense of doubling down on this feeling. I really wish I could have been a part of that. Emulation was the next big frontier in my involvement with the PC Engine because in one fell swoop, that entire library was opened up to me with the only drawback being that my 486 computer wasn't really up to the task, but I've talked about that before. I revisited it once I was able to get my hands on a Pentium 2 and it became increasingly baffling to me how this system wasn't better received or supported. Ports of games like Outrun, Ninja Gaiden, Gradius, Pocky and Rocky, and Space Harrier were fantastic by themselves, but adding exclusive content like Bomberman 94, Dragon Saber, and SCI really elevated the system to goated status. Fast forward to today, with a better understanding of how the system fared in Japan and the behind-the-scenes problems with NEC, Hudson Soft, and TTI, and we have a much clearer picture of everything that went wrong in the West. Thankfully, these days the import market is much more accessible, either by way of simply buying original Japanese hardware on eBay like I did, modifying the North American hardware, devices like the Turbo EverDrive, or actual new systems like the Analog Duo, and, I have to imagine, some type of Retron integration further down the road as awareness of the PC Engine continues to expand. Even now I'm continuing to discover outstanding games on the system that I never knew about before, and even with the waves of new players coming in because of High Score Girl, the PC Engine Mini, and the Analog Duo, the PC Engine maintains its identity as a platform for the most deeply rooted gamers to gather around. This time away from a revolving door of overproduced, overpriced, overexposed, and far too often entirely disposable AAA titles that today's industry constantly shoves in your face. The best part of it all is, the PC Engine is experiencing this resurgence on a global level, thanks to a thriving international market, reproductions, emulation, and SD loaders like the EverDrive. The whole of the system's library can be accessed easily, internationally. It can finally represent what it has always represented, now everywhere. and the environment is perfect for a lot of people to find out about it. When I first spoke with Lunar Princess about providing character art for the channel, I honestly didn't know what I wanted on the t-shirt, but in the moment I just happened to think of a TurboGrafx-16 shirt that I always meant to buy off of Amazon but never got around to. I didn't really think of it as any kind of major statement, just something that was reasonably on brand for the channel and its tone. As time has passed, I've come to appreciate that selection more and more as I realize how iconic the PC Engine is to everything this channel is ultimately about. At this point, I really think of the PC Engine as a platform whose story is not over. These surges of new players and new hardware have effectively resumed its lifespan, with games like Dino Force leaving the door wide open for continued software development to support that revitalization. All this while still representing the exact same brand of gaming that it always has, and providing the same comfortable niche that it did 30 years ago. I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. Friends, this, at least for now, wraps up a series of PC Engine videos from which I hope all of you discovered at least a few new games to enjoy, if not an entire new system to explore. No matter how you experience it, the PC Engine is host to a vast library of great games even beyond what I was able to go into in this video series. Ultimately, however, the games I've mentioned up to now are more than enough to start you on this journey of discovering the PC Engine. As you get deeper into it, you'll find your way to other sources who will inevitably introduce you to more games, and so on and so forth. That's the way of all retro gaming, honestly. But there's something undeniably special about the PC Engine. If you find your way to it, you're pretty far down the gaming iceberg, especially by today's standards. It is still every bit the gaming devotee's status symbol that it was in the 90s, with a great variety of games to enjoy even despite an obvious slant toward shmups. No matter what your tastes, you'll find something to like here. That's all for now. If you like this video, then please let YouTube know there's good stuff going on over here with your likes, comments, shares, and especially subscribes. We're just underway on that push to 1,000 subscribers for 2024. Click the notification bell if you want to know right away when the next video is out. I look forward to seeing you back here next time at Little Akiba Games.